Alright, everybody, hello, all of you gamers. Welcome back to Slurpathon 10. My name is Tempest1000, and I, for one last time, will be your host. This little donation reading, though, is being done in captivity because it seems that the Toad Army has gotten me captured, and there's only one savior for my plight, Mr. Captain Bucky O'Hare, and his game is going to be run right now for you all by Junkyard Dave, so Dave, you are my only hope. Good luck.
Well, everything will go terrible, so it's okay. But no, I appreciate the intro. I just wanted to show people right off the start if people aren't familiar with this category. So normally in this game you have a very generous health bar, and we're going to be running hard mode, which I think is my favorite category of this game. I've actually ran warpless, normal, and hard mode now. And what hard mode is basically everything becomes a one-hit kill. So that increases the difficulty a lot. You probably weren't supposed to beat this game under hard mode. What hard mode originally was an anti-piracy feature. So a long time ago, if you're one of those people that decided to bootleg this card and you put it on a floppy disk, there would be an anti-piracy feature because the checksum would fail and everything would become a one-hit KO. So for whatever reason, the developers decided to put that into the game accessible via password, and everything now kills us in one hit. So it drastically plays different and changes kind of like how you do this game. So I recently took second place in this. I'm actually pretty proud of that. I am absolutely sure as well that I will not be able to replicate any kind of run reflective of second place. But for almost 10 years, Cypher, who was one of the main people that actually got me into speed... Oh, see? Look, see? I told you! For over 10 years, actually one of the people, Cypher, that got me into speedrunning, actually held second place. So he was impossible to beat. Or sorry, it was actually Garrison. Okay, can we just climb, please? Alright. Oh my goodness. Everything, I told you, man. Okay. Beautiful. Game over on the tree, whatever happened. So as I was saying, I'm second place in this game somehow. Okay, anyway, we're gonna get out of this tree. I believe you, Bucky. We can leave. Alright, we're out of here. So yeah, there's not much to really say about Green Planet. Ironically, despite what you just saw, Green Planet is kind of like the free planet. And I'm not just saying that because it rhymes and it's like a terrible joke, because I'm not that creative with terrible things. But, yeah, there's really actually not much in terms of kind of like anti-piracy. I would say screens on this channel, or this, on this planet. What's kind of weird, and I've always wanted to go back in time and kind of like ask the developers to see what they were intended, is there are some screens in this game that I really feel were designed around anti-piracy in mind. Like once they realized that there is an anti-piracy feature going to be in this game. So Green Planet doesn't really have most of that stuff. Except coming up here, actually. And the next screen kind of has probably, I would say, the first kind of like anti-piracy check screen, because you have a bunch of these lasers, and it's a very specific way to get through this screen on hard mode. So you have to pause and jump in between these lasers very specifically, otherwise you'll get shot and killed. And this is probably the first screen that was meant to be, you know, like an anti-piracy deterrent. So this guy has 40 health, and we apparently are going to just walk right into him and die. So it's possible if you walk to the right side like that to get... One sec. It's possible to get a right side kill. I actually don't know if I mashed good enough there. I don't think so. We're going to hang out here. We'll take the 2.5 cycle of shame. But your mashing has to be pretty precise to get rid of him on the right side in one other cycle, so... That concludes the Green Planet. Not a good showing of the Green Planet. So the story that goes on in this game is you have a bunch of little companions and they get kidnapped right at the very beginning. We rescued Blinky, which is this robot guy, and we need him actually to enter the blue planet. This is the only planet that you cannot do in any order, otherwise you can do whatever order that you want in the planets. But you actually need the blue planet, Blinky and the blue planet to destroy these ice blocks. No other character can destroy these ice blocks. So, it's very legitimate. Like, people on first playthroughs, they just go to the blue planet and then they have the game over and then pick somewhere else because they just cannot progress. So it doesn't matter if it's warpless, normal, or hard mode. In this particular game, you always do green first and then blue. And we do blue because there's a girl named Jenny, and she is absolutely OP. She's completely broken in terms of her, special kind of like ability. And it's also, I guess, worth noting in that kind of regard that every single character has a different ability, like in terms of the power bar at the bottom. And if you have anything that you want to talk about, this is one of the hardest screens in the game, but this is probably one of the most friendly screens to just talk and say stuff.
Can do. Well, when I do not see any signs of my captors, it looks like you're giving them heck and then some. Which is to remind the folks here that Slurpathon 10 is raising money for Extra Life, particularly the Alberta Children's Hospital Foundation. Now, we are looking really nice with our total, but we still quite to go for the schedule with the rest of this final day before we call it off for at least here, and then come back to you with some more stuff. And let me just tell you all, you folks have been killing it, and we very much appreciate all your contributions, no matter how big or how small. Your donations are going to the hospital themselves, and they will be unrestricted funds, which means that the hospital themselves will get to decide how to best utilize these funds for the benefit possible to them. So, no strings attached whatsoever. The funds that will eventually go to the Alberta Children's Hospital will be theirs to use, theirs to decide, and all that good jazz. And if that's convinced you to give this a shot, exclamation point donate in the chat will send you to our link. Feel free to include a message, which I'll be sure to read, even if the toads put me in a rather muffy bunker. This place is probably horrible for donation reading, but hey, if you like current setup, I mean, one shot only, I guess.
There you go. So yeah, ironically, the rest of Blue Planet went really well. That iceberg screen, once he started talking, is literally a death looping palace. Like, it is the hardest screen in the game, so we one-shot that. And then the boss afterwards takes 160 bullets to mash, so he's never really fun. We didn't die like a weirdo there, so everything went good. At least at the end of Blue Planet. So entering Red, I guess if you ever wanted to steal this game a long time ago on a floppy disk, Red was the planet that you wanted to play, because how you play it in hard mode is... Oh my goodness, I'm amazed that we did not die there. How you play it in hard mode is almost exactly the same as how you would play it in normal. So like none of these screens really change in hard mode or anything like that. And the one big exception is a couple of screens from now. We have mainly what separates like the warpless category, and that is the death warp coming up. So the death warp is not there. That was an unintentional death because Jenny has a giant head. But we just smashed our head apparently on that block and fell into the lava. But the death warp coming up actually is kind of quirky how it works. So if you have a character that manages to die and his dead body gets pushed into the screen and it keeps moving, you know, at a couple of frames or pixels or whatever, you actually skip a massive amount of screens. So in this case, there's not really many screens that are left, but there is an auto scroller that comes up and it takes about a minute. So once we get to the top of this screen, in the next screen, we'll set up for the death warp, which is, I wouldn't say like fairly precise, but you still have to land on a boulder. So we'll go here. This jump is a little bit tricky. I think it's a 2-frame jump. You actually don't have a whole lot of time here. So you have to kill that toad very specifically. Not that guy. That's terrible. Try this again. Oh my goodness, how did that happen twice? Dude, I swear. It's one of those things where like everything that can go wrong, of course, goes wrong. Okay, so we get to do the Death Warp setup again. We don't want to kill that other toad. He's actually an interferer. So this toad we kill, then we go here, and there we go. We land on there. So that actually skips the auto-scroller section. We get shot right to the boss. We save probably close to a minute, although probably not that much. And then this is why we use Jenny. She is completely overpowered. She does something like 1 damage per frame, or something like 3 damage per frame. I'm not exactly sure. But she absolutely annihilates all the bosses very, 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 very quickly. And there's no other character that can out-DPS her. So entering yellow, we have an immediately weird jump right off the start, otherwise that'll kill us, and we are going to spawn a 3rd worm. Normally there's 2 worms on this screen, and manipulating these worms is actually a pretty tight window. But because we wasted literal frames at the beginning of this screen, there's going to be a 3rd worm that spawns right here. So usually this guy isn't here, and he makes this last part a little bit awkward. And this is a super kind of weird screen in terms of like all this stuff that you need to do to get through it. You have to basically switch to every character and use them, I guess like sans Jenny. And that's going to kill me if I walked into it because that was a weird timer. And in normal and warpless, this is actually probably one of the easier kind of like levels, because there's a weird glitch in this game where if you just hold left and you take damage, you can skip through everything. But in hard mode we don't have that, so you have to like literally run through that very specifically. That death was intentional because that skips almost like 3 minutes and it allows us to go right to the boss again. So same thing as before, there is a death warp there. This this kill is actually probably one of the hardest in the game. I believe this is like a 2 pixel window to set up for. It's actually very precise, and of course we got shot here twice. If you're not on the right pixel, by the 2nd wave that those bullets come, you just get shot. So this should be good. You want her like foot just over that black line slightly. And then it's possible to one-shot that boss, but wasn't the case. This game is really ridiculous. Like hard mode is a very fun run, but it's also extremely, I would say, marathon unsafe because it's very possible to death loop. But the weird thing in this game is if you die, there's very friendly checkpoints. Like you always start from the same screen that you died on. But there are some screens that have checkpoints that are like really far into, I guess, like the screen, even for like an NES game. So in particular in Escape and Magma, there are some screens that you can die and just lose like a minute each time. So luckily on the yellow boss, if you're taking a death there, it's not too terrible. So we rescued everybody and they immediately get kidnapped again, so rip. I guess they get taken to a cell or something like that. There is actually a 1 frame window we'll try to get here. If we get it right, Blinky can walk under these blocks. I don't know. No. Not allowed. So we have to like destroy these blocks like a sucker now. I think in the 2nd place run that I had, I actually got that 1 frame window. Thank you Blinky for making that awkward. And everybody gets captured, as I said. They get like put under like this hypnotized ray or something like that. And we have to go back and basically kill everybody. Ironically, the first person that you fight is Jenny again, which is good for us because realistically she still maintains the fact that she is the best character to have. And she is ironically as mash heavy as almost the alligator. So she's not a great boss fight. I think she, for comparison, the alligator has like 160 health or something. Well, sure, 1 hit away. Good job. She has something around like 140, so she takes quite a few shots as well to kill. She has the 2nd most amount of health, I think, outside of the very final boss, the big toad ship at the end. So luckily she's first that was captured, which means that we have Jenny for everybody else that was captured, and it makes the rest of the boss fights pretty trivial. That was awkward too. Normally we want to walk under those 2 blocks. So entering... Okay, sorry. Entering this screen coming up, it's actually the next screen after here. I don't know what it is. It's so incredibly easy to die in the next screen. It's one of the most cursed screens, I think, in this game. If you check Callum's like hard mode record, it's the only death in the entire hard mode record. And when I was playing and trying to get second place, like I constantly lost runs, just taking a death in the next screens, like this one coming up here. And walking off here and doing this jump is a little bit scary, and then the jump at the very end is also a little bit scary. So there's a reason why people die in this room, and they like to die in this room, because it's absolutely not free in any such sense of the word, my goodness. But yeah, it's... there you go. So, same thing here. We're entering a really weird section, which I will need audio for just a second. And we're good. So this is not a scroller. Normally you have to kind of like run around like a maniac and destroy this stuff right here. If you stand in this particular pixel, you can basically skip like 70% of it. So all we're going to do here is very, very easily just look up and shoot. And at some point we're going to be forced to move because there's going to be spikes above us, but this is probably the only other time. If you want to pipe in and say anything else, you're more than welcome to again, because we're just going to be staring here for a little bit.
Dave, well, good news for us. We do have a $5 donation from Shawnee7188, a runner who I had the pleasure of hosting twice this event, who comes to say, I missed my chance for donation message spam during the iceberg section. Donation goes to Tempest's Choice, mostly because he had to endure hosting our family oddity for large amounts of marathon.
There you go. Yeah, that's actually my brother.
Thank you.
So it's funny that you hosted both of us.
Yeah. Brad, you love to hear it. Well, thank you very much, honey. Yeah, you know what? Let's put that toward the Crossbeats boss song. That has yet to be met, and we are still looking for $130 if we add this $5 donation to that right now. So, folks, that's going to be soon. That's not too far away. It's not necessarily close. We still got we still got Wild Guns coming up by Gigas Blues and Crack Attack, which, by the way, is going to be a wonderful time, let me assure you all. But after that is going to be Jam It, and if you want to see him do the boss songs, yeah, we got to get to that soon. So that's where I'm going to put it toward.
That's such a sick run, if it's a Super Nintendo one.
It is Wild Guns for Super Nintendo. Yes.
Right on. Yeah, my girlfriend and I used to run that co-op, and we had the record actually in hard mode for a while, but that's a really good one.
Amazing. Gigas Blues are pretty solid runners. I actually saw their GDQ run. It's great.
Yeah, actually, me too. They did a really good job. So this stage is pretty straightforward too. It's actually one of the shortest stages, I think, in Bucky, which is kind of weird. Like, it's kind of misplaced considering I feel the difficulty of this stage, or maybe like how far it is into the run. So in hard mode, it's a little bit tricky. I believe these things are close to a 2-pixel jump too, like skipping over these weird kind of like pincer monsters, or whatever you want to call them. And the very first jump is a pretty tight window frame. And coming up here, there's a very specific bug that we're going to be looking for, and we have to spawn the screen. So you can see on the right side, he's crawling down, this little green guy. Once he passes down, we can run through. We have to spawn it in that specific way on hard mode, otherwise we kind of get stuck and killed. This room is... oops. Oh. Okay, that was beautiful. This room is actually one of the hardest rooms. I'll try that again. Okay. It's one of the most hardest rooms if you go for the strat that I actually figured out here. So we'll try to do this again. Okay, so that's what that strat is supposed to look like. And it's preceded by arguably one of the hardest strats in the entire game. So you can one cycle this room with this kid, but I have been running this game for a while, and I've said multiple times, like, this kid has a giant head. And this room basically requires people not to have a giant cranium, but luckily we were able to get through that. If you do the one cycle with that room and you run through with the kid, that's actually a very tight window too. And we are very awkwardly, we didn't have the duck out for some reason. Yeah, like for real, like it is a thing. Like this kid has a giant, although it's funny too, because we actually looked at a hitbox viewer recently, and it turns out the kid has the same hitbox as every other person. So maybe my blame is maybe my blame is misdirected. So you can usually sneak under all 4 of these things. And there's a 1 true frame window at the end if you do, but because we sucked, we were able to just take that block and jump up. Normally that block isn't there, and there's a 1 frame window to jump out of like that mud or blood or whatever it was supposed to be. And again, demonstrating the power of Jenny. I'm really conflicted about this next level. In my opinion, this level is maybe harder than the end game, but it depends on the category. So big shout outs to Omquat, he saved everybody's life running this. There used to be a 2-frame jump on that screen, and Omquat very much routed it differently and made everybody's lives easier, so no longer are people going for a 2-frame jump like 20 some minutes into the run. So we'll try I guess like a relatively harder strat towards the end too. And this I always thought was kind of bonkers, because if you check like Callum's record, although I think I did it in my second place run too, Callum like risked everything. Okay, this is one of the stages that you don't want to die on. It's very hard to talk during this game too, so I apologize for that. I've always had an issue with commentary and talking, because hard mode is actually hard. Like, my brain can either play this game or talk about it, but trying to do both, it's like, it's sometimes difficult still. But Callum, in his hard mode record, he went for a jump at the very end, at the very beginning of the next screen. And it always just kind of blows me away, just because, like, you're on such a good pace, you're on world record pace, and there is a 2-pixel window that we actually got, that you can jump over that first robot if you land on the ledge like that. And his run in the record is full of little things like that, where he just pushed for, you know, like an extra 2 seconds or whatever, 0.2 or 0.3 here, and it just all adds up over time. So we have, actually, okay, we got stuck there really. Coming up, probably, I would say, one of the rooms that kind of give people the most grief casually. And in my opinion, these are kind of like the anti-piracy rooms. Like, if you were somehow able to make it to this point of the game with pirating it a long time ago, you would probably get stuck here, because there's very specific ways that you have to get through this in hard mode that normally involve this kid. So in the first and the fourth room here, you have to like basically shoot multiple, I'm pretty sure it's again 2-frame windows like that to basically get rid of those guys, otherwise it'll cycle in such a way that their shots will kill you 100% of the time. And these screens are super annoying. They are partially position based, and they're also partially based on a stage timer, so depending how you get here. So this guy should fall in front of me again, and by the time that okay. And then this guy also should leave me alone if I spawn this. Okay, we'll just die on top of the snake. That works too. But what's tricky about this is they kind of spawn on your y-axis, so they literally just drop down on you if you're not careful. And so many people that have run hard mode, and even just normal, they just lose runs here. So once you kill that turret on the bottom right, it's entirely possible, okay, that there's a safe spot with Jenny here. Depending on how you get here in this boss, there is... Sure, we're just going to take 1000 cycles. Or 1000. So depending how fast you get here on the stage timer, this guy will give you a low or a not low pattern. So considering he shot low, like that's beyond my control, and that's the only spot that part becomes not safe. So we don't really want to be Jenny at the start of this fight, we just want to switch to her after, so we can stand in this like safe spot here. And then hopefully he doesn't shoot low. It is possible to dodge the low shot, sure. It is possible to dodge the low shot, but you need to, you have to duck out of and cancel the ball like that. See, it's very annoying. So if you could just not shoot low for a second machine, thank you. If you don't cancel that ball, you'll just get killed immediately. So we're entering the last level. The last level is a mixture of easy and difficult. In hard mode, there's a couple of sections that are ridiculous. I wouldn't say like this first part of the auto-scroller is hard in hard mode, but what makes it extremely unforgiving is if you die at the very end, like the checkpoint is almost like a minute and a half into this. So this is one of the most time costly deaths, if you accidentally die. There is a part towards the end where in normal and warpless it doesn't matter. There's these like ships that spawn and they automatically track you and they try to shoot you based on your current position on the screen. Normally that doesn't matter because you have like a billion hearts in this screen, or this whole level I should say, that you can collect in warpless and normal. But in hard mode, if anything obviously damages you, you just immediately die. So you can see I'll start hanging out up here. The ships that spawn immediately start spawning and they shoot the bullets in a very specific way. So ideally we want to go like this to avoid these last few. And after this last smoke thing, that's where the checkpoint would have been. So if we died before then, we would have lost a minute or more. It's pretty annoying. So that's probably one of the hardest parts in hard mode, at least if you're trying for like a competitive time. Because if you die, it's easily like a minute lost every single time. The rest of Escape is kind of weird. The actual final boss isn't too bad. There's a boss that's coming up after this next section, in my opinion is like the most terrifying boss in this entire game. If you're on pace, he is pseudo-random in how he decides to like split apart and shoot. And I'll have to listen to audio in a second here because there is a way to double damage him. So we'll see. So if you bump on that ledge, there's a 7-frame window you can do double damage here. Which apparently we did not get. But what makes this boss so terrifying is he'll break apart after you destroy these 2 pillars. And he shoots basically 3 bullets at a time on screen, so there will always be 3 bullets, but you don't know when those bullets are going to leave the screen. So he's effectively random, and the way that he bounces around is also random because he can bounce from the top or bounce from the top, or sorry, bounce on the bottom or the top after he breaks apart. So you have to kind of keep in your peripheral where these 3 bullets are every single time and know like if you're in the corner or something like that. But there's no real way that you can do this that's not reaction. Ooh, like that. So in my opinion, this boss is actually harder than the end boss. On pace, he is always terrifying. What's kind of silly about him, as we learned later on, he's actually on a frame rule. So if you kill him slowly, the screen takes like 4.5 seconds to scroll into like the best frame rule. And you just lose basically 5 seconds for taking it safe, on top of the time that you lose also for taking it safe. So he's kind of a weird mix. In my opinion, that's the true final boss. This guy is like second final boss because there is a 2-frame window, or 2-pixel window I should say, sorry, that you can quick kill this boss. If you miss the quick kill, it literally takes like over a minute for the ship to cycle. And we don't want that, so hopefully we get it. You have to put this kid's nose like basically right up into this engine. and we got it. So that's also true final boss. This is really hard on pace as well. And then the final boss is actually moderately free in comparison to all the nonsense that came before. So all we have to do is line ourselves up with this heart, but we don't actually want to grab the heart. We just want to be slightly above it, because that means when this guy's helmet comes in on screen, he won't kill us. It'll go right above, and then we can start killing the final boss here, which in this case there is a crazy kill, but I'll just do the regular standard kill where we switch between Bucky and this kid. That's it. So timing is done when we lose control, so 29:30. There we go. Pretty decent, I feel, even though there are some deaths there. Realistically, anything under sub 30 minutes in a no reset setting is, in my opinion, a victory. Like, it's really hard to, like, not just bleed time everywhere in this game, in this category specifically. But yeah, that's hard mode Bucky. Yeah, thank you guys for the GGs, especially the tree. Always a fun one. Thank you, Slurpy Ninja and crew, for accepting both Battle Kid, but Bucky in general. Like, I always like when people give Bucky a shot in a marathon setting, especially hard mode. Yeah, anything else you want to say? Otherwise, I guess you guys can switch to the next runner, which I think is Wild Gun, so good luck. How you doing, chat? I'm still here, apparently.
Well, I'm just gonna pop in here.
Oh, hello.
Yeah, hi. I'm just gonna pop in here and say I'm pretty sure that Tempest. So, you know what? Tempest was having some computer issues.
I see. Okay.
I was just gonna speak on behalf of him, but maybe it'll work now. Hey, Tempest. Does talking work?
I don't know why my mic stopped working.
Yeah, we didn't hear anything if you said anything, but hi, welcome. I was going to talk on behalf of you, but now you can talk on behalf of yourself.
Okay, cool. Okay, well, looks like I finally got rescued from the Toad Empire. Took Willie DeWitt a while, but thank goodness. So as we all settle down for this victory on the righteous indignation, folks, one special thanks to Junkyard Dave, and an extra special thanks to Slurpathon as well from myself. Of course, this is going to be the last time you're going to hear my voice on the donation reading mic for the rest of the event. But we still got a lot that we can do. We still got a lot of fun times left for us. And, y'all, it's always a pleasure to be able to this event go on. Extra Life is such a wonderful charity to support in many, many ways, and this is probably one of my favorite ways to do so. But, of course, if y'all would be so kind as to consider giving Dave a follow, as that run was pretty spectacular. If nothing else, though, again, thank you to Slurpy for having me help. And, you know, we got, as Dave said, Wild Guns coming up next, one that you all will not want to miss. With that in mind, this is Tempest, signing out for the rest of Slurpathon. But until we next meet, ciao, amici.
That sounds good. Thank you all for having me.